Nung was determined to learn English. So when an Adventist English language center opened in her town in northern Laos, she jumped on the opportunity. She took this very seriously and came up with a goal to learn 100 new vocabulary words per day. Nung didn't have a background in English, but through hard work, she quickly began to understand the language. She faithfully attended classes and practiced with native English speakers until she became fluent. Speaking English made it possible for her to go to an Adventist university in Thailand. She's currently enrolled in Asia Pacific International University's education and psychology programs, and she hopes to use her new skills back home in Laos. The local Adventist English Language Center didn't only offer her the chance to learn English, it also provided a chance to learn about Jesus. Nung and her mother were among the first to join the center's weekly Sabbath worship services. At first, only 7 people gathered in a small home. Today, that number has grown to more than 100 people every week. Like many others, Nung and her mother gave their hearts to Jesus. In 2018, a portion of the 13th Sabbath offering helped expand this English language center. It has been a blessing to dozens of students like Nung who have been able to explore new opportunities. Now you have the chance to contribute to another special school in Laos through this quarter's 13th Sabbath offering. Part of Laos has been very difficult for Adventists to reach. In 1957, Pastor Dick Hall and his wife and children came to the city of Luang Namtha to introduce Jesus to the Lao people. He worked for 4 years before they were forced to evacuate due to war. They left behind a handful of new believers who were still young in their faith. Today, there is only one Adventist left in this city. Luang Namtha has become a strategic location as Laos' northern gateway to China. An Adventist presence can help the community grow as the city expands. The Lao Adventist Mission plans to build a bilingual primary school here. With your contribution to the 13th Sabbath offering, they hope a new school can become an integral part of this community. Please support the work in this part of the world by contributing this quarter. Thank you for giving to the 13th Sabbath offering.
Thank you. Just doing some housekeeping. The mics are for the internet and doing a recording, so sometimes we have to move them away from my voice. So we're just taking care of that. Thank you all for being here. Happy New Year. I'm going to do the program a little differently than usual. Often classical recitals will go in order of composer and time period. But I want to do things a little different, a little more interesting. So I want to take you on a little journey around the world. And we're going to start with Germany. The first 2 pieces are German. One is by Mahler, and the next one is by Wagner. And Germany at this time, especially in winter, is very cold and quite dark. There's not a lot of sunlight. So light is a big thing in a lot of amazing German poetry, including this first piece. I'm just going to grab my notes. Some info. Can I turn that on and off, or is there a switch? Oh, okay. So the first piece, first piece is called Urlicht, which is primordial light. And the poem it's from a collection of folkloric tales that are a very old book, published in 1805, and they became kind of a standard of the literature of Germany, which it then informed many of the great writers that we have, all these great German writers after that. And it's a collection of folk songs and romances. This one in particular, "O little red rose, man lies in great need, man lies in great pain, how I would rather be in heaven." There I came upon a broad path, meaning in the poem, I am wanting to go up to heaven, but an angel stops me and wants to turn me away. But then I say, no, I will not let myself be turned away, because I am from God, and I am of God, and I shall return to God, and the loving God will grant me a little light, and that light will bring me to that blissful eternal life. So it's a little bit of a controversial tale. This is a pre-Christian idea and a pre-Christian poem. Basically, the suffering of the earth and the pain of being a human. And this poet decides, no, I'm going to just return to God, and I'm not going to listen to the warnings of the angels, because I know that I'm of God, and that's where I can return. So, starting out with primordial light. is by Wagner, also a song. This is a song from one of his later works, from the Wesendonck-Lieder, which was written by a woman who they had this platonic love. They really loved each other in a very deep way. And she wrote these beautiful poems that he then set to music as a gift to her. And he actually said that these 5 songs were the greatest work that he ever did. And for Wagner, that's a huge statement because he was a humongous composer in the operatic world and in the classical world, and everything he did was like an epic masterpiece. And also, he was one of most of the people that thought that. So for him to say that this was one of his greatest works was quite a big deal. This piece is entitled Dreams, and it's a poem about finding the one and feeling like everything that is bad, that has passed, is all forgotten, and this one person has changed everything, and it's like a new spring and new light has come into your life. And it's very beautiful and very hopeful and very poetic in the elements of nature that he talks about. And in the end, it kind of all rushes a lot and calms down into a beautiful, peaceful sort of, you have this flame in your heart and then it gently dies down like into winter. So here's Dreams, Träume. Actually, this is also, it was such a monumental piece for him personally that it informed the famous opera Tristan and Isolde. This is actually what the love duet is based on, was this little song. So here it is. going to sing a few things in English, which I don't usually get to do. This piece is Sure on This Shining Night by Samuel Barber. The poet is James Agee. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's from the 1940s. And really interesting poem. As I was doing some research to, speak about this in a good way, I saw some posts analyzing the poem and so many different comments from different people interpreting it totally differently. So I'm going to sing it in English, but I'm going to read you the words first so that you kind of get an idea. Sure on this shining night of star-made shadows round, kindness must watch for me this side the ground. The late year lies down the north, all is healed, all is health. High summer holds the earth, hearts all whole. Sure on this shining night I weep for wonder, wandering far alone of shadows on the stars. You can interpret that how you will, but for me it makes me feel like this is a magical, beautiful, shining night, and the stars are shining down on me, and all is blessed, and all is good. And in this moment, everything is okay, all is healed, and I find it beautiful. And I chose it also because my son, who's here, crawling up to the front, says I don't sing happy music, which is true, but this one's pretty happy. It's beautiful, but we'll take it as a happy one. This is one more piece in English. This is from the Elgar Sea Pictures. I guess I should tell you a little bit. I think most of you know me, but I'm a mezzo-soprano or contralto, which is the lower of the female voice types. So you'll hear me sing a lot of notes, especially in this one. And I mostly sing opera. I mostly sing opera, which you'll get into some of those pieces later. They're more longer, bigger arias, much louder. These are the more intimate of what I do, which I don't get to do often, so I'm happy to present these today. And this one is a beautiful poem it's called the Sea Slumber Song. And another one that I think of is also like very healing, beautiful, about the sea and how the sea murmurs her soft song and the world forgets to weep. I, the mother mild, hush thee, O my child, forget the voices wild. And it's a song of healing and letting sort of the beauty of the sea heal you and feel back, not to leave woes and wails and sins on the shore. So.
Forgets
Thank you. So that ends the English set. This next set of pieces, we're going to the world of the Slavic culture, which is where I feel most at home, being Polish, Polish-American. And a couple of the songs I'll be singing are Russian. Unfortunately, the Polish composers were more interested in the soprano voice, the lighter female voice, so they didn't write a lot for me, so I'm not too happy about that. So I'm singing a lot of Russian pieces, and I mean, in the end, it's all very similar culture. The people, the bloodlines, you know, the ancestors are all the same, and I really feel the Russian temperament and the Russian music in a deep way. So the first two pieces will be Russian pieces, one by Mussorgsky from Kovanchina, and this will be the first aria in the program, something from opera, so you'll notice the difference. It's an epic scene where she is calling upon the spirits of everyone that has passed, and she's doing, invoking them, different spirits of different kinds, to tell the fortune of this prince who she has also had a relationship with in the past. And you see her going through this trance and calling upon the spirits, and then getting to know what they're saying about him. And then he kind of says something, well, I don't have him here today, but the piano is going to bring me back to the present moment. And then she makes it very personal and interprets the vision that she's seen for him, which is not very a good one. Let's be honest, it's Russian music, so of course, terrible, everything is terrible and everybody's gonna die. So it's not a very happy piece. But then it becomes very personal in the aria section at the end, which I find deeply beautiful, so I hope you enjoy it. And I'll tell you about the next one next. Sorry, I gotta tell you one more thing about this composer, which I find really cool. When he was first on the scene, he was criticized because they said his work was very peasantly. It wasn't widely accepted in the beginning because he found his inspiration. He was a very unique, eccentric person, and he would go into the streets and the churches and you know, hang out with all the poor people and people on the street and find out how they spoke and listen to them and watch them and observe them. And all of his music and the way that he wrote the poetry and the words to the music, the sounds, was based on the language and the variation of the language that he heard in the street and of people talking and selling things. And so it became a very deep part of the culture once it was accepted. So it was a very unusual and unprecedented way for composers at that time. You know, everybody at that time wanted to be very elegant and eloquent and compose for the very, you know, the most rich and luxurious sort of thing, but he was really like of the people. So I also appreciate that part of it. Just wanted to share that with you. Okay, let's do that.
Si potoi
This next piece is, we're going back to a song. It's a song by Rachmaninoff, Opus 8, number 4. And it is a life of pain I've known because I fell in love with a soldier. And it's pretty self-explanatory, so. This next piece is a little different, quite different, and then we're going to take a 10-minute intermission. I'm going to do one piece that is actually Polish. It's not from the operatic or the art song repertoire, but it's a piece that's very special to me and all Polish people. It's called Pierwsza Brygada, and I was fortunate enough to sing in Poland for the first time last year. For the November 11th celebration of Polish independence. And we did many concerts. It was a concert tour. And I sang this song, which my father was telling me about this song. That's how I got to know it. And it turned out to be the perfect choice for that. And I was very honored to sing it that day because present at the concert was many people from the Scouts. And a lot of Polish Scouts is a big thing in Poland, and a lot of military people were there too. And before the concert even started, they started invoking all the heroes of Polish history, and namely the people involved in this time period in World War I. Józef Piłsudski was one of the big people they were talking about. So singing this song was very difficult at that moment because I wasn't expecting it, but they all stood up. So it was a packed room, bigger than this one, and I came up to sing it, and they heard the first chords, and they all stood up, and I felt, I was born in this country, but my father's from Poland, so for me, I felt very connected to my Polish roots, but I didn't have that experience of growing up there, so I was so taken aback, and I could barely get through the song, but I find it to be very important, not only for Polish history, but personally, because the words are so special. The words actually were spontaneously created by a couple of people, Colonel Andrzej Hałaczyński and Officer Tadeusz Biernacki in 1917. And this is the song of the legions, Legiony. And they basically turned the tides of the war. It was a very small group of people that started this movement. That there was very few of them, and the words are, the legions are soldiers' note. They're our sacrificial pyre, and the soldier's pride, and the soldier's destiny. And we're a small group of shooters that have thrown on the pyre our life's fate. How much suffering and how much toil, how much blood and tears have flowed, but despite it all, there's no doubt that the end journey will always give us strength. So they basically were giving up their lives for the hope of creating Poland again, to making Poland a country again. And it's very powerful. And now it's actually become one of the anthems of the Polish Armed Forces. So after that, we'll do a 10-minute intermission.
10 minutes, we'll pick up the offering. Thank you.
So now we go to Italy. We're going to do a couple of Italian pieces. The first of which is by Verdi, who is a composer that I will have to say I've sung the most in my life. I've sung a lot of Verdi, and I've sung a lot of Carmen's, but I'm not singing Carmen tonight because that's what people pay me to sing, and I want to sing what I want to sing tonight, so no Carmen. And so this piece is a Verdi piece from Don Carlo, the Schiller play, Don Carlo, based on historical figures. My character, Princess Eboli, is a Moorish princess, a very interesting character who was said to have seduced many a member of the royal court. And here she, in this scene, they're waiting for the queen, and all the women, the ladies in waiting, are sitting outside in the garden and singing songs and telling stories, and this is the equivalent in those days of a dirty joke. So what it is she's telling the story of the veils. It's called the Veil Song, Canzone del Velo, and it's a story of a beautiful woman sitting in a garden with her veil on, looking at the stars, and along comes the king. And the king says to her, "Oh, you're so beautiful, and you know, I'm tired of the queen. Why don't you come with me and rule with me?" And you know, and then the song goes on, and he's praising her beauty and says, like, "Your beautiful hand and your hair, please take your veil off because I'm sure I'll be blinded, that your beauty is more beautiful than the sun." And when he takes the veil off of her, of course, it's the queen. So it's the equivalent, and then, you know, the refrain is that women wear the veils, always be mysterious, because that's, you know, I guess the way to succeed in a relationship. I don't know. But it's very old-fashioned, but you can hear sort of that Moorish flavor and some typical Verdi elements. So here it is. So this next piece, also in Italian, will be Acerba Voluta. It's from Adriana Lecouvreur by Cilea. And my character, also a princess here. I like these ladies. My character, the princess Adriana, not Adriana, I'm sorry, the princess. She's waiting for her lover, and she's hoping that, well, she's in love with him. She's waiting for him, and she's hoping that he will come, and it describes this sort of like tension of like waiting and hoping that it'll be him, and is he gonna come? And I'm looking out the window, and I'm getting excited, but then I'm not sure, and it's this bittersweet sort of longing and waiting and hoping, and it comes into a beautiful aria, praying to the stars to bring her love close to her. So the last country, last language that I'll do in the program is France. These are going to be 3 arias from Samson and Delilah by Saint-Saëns. It was actually written as an oratorio, which is where there's no acting, there's no, costumes or anything. It's just a biblical piece where people just stand and deliver the music with the orchestra and everything. But it turned into an opera because there's so much drama in the story of Samson and Delilah and in the music that he wrote for it that it became an opera, even though it wasn't originally intended as so. And it's very popular and famously done nowadays. The first 2 are not usually done. The third one you probably have heard. The first one, Printemps qui commence, is springtime is coming. And in the scene, she is dancing with her maidens, and Samson has just returned to where they all are, and he sees her. So this is the moment where he's come back under her spell. And she knows he's watching her, sort of thing. So she's singing about spring is curing the sad hearts and bringing hope of new love. And then she also says, it's in vain that I'm beautiful because I just sit here next to this river. This is a literal translation. I'm just sitting here next to the river crying and weeping because he left me. So my beauty is in vain. But I'm hoping and holding on to the beauty of the past that maybe he'll return again. The second piece is the first piece has worked. She's charmed him he's agreed to meet with her again. And she's waiting for him to arrive. And she says a little prayer to love, to the god or goddess of love, to give her strength to overcome him. And she says, all of my brothers with their strength could not subdue this man, but with your help, I will be able to put the poison into his heart. And by tomorrow, Samson will be in chains at my knees. And so it's quite intense. And then, of course, she does get her wish. And the last piece is actually a duet in the opera. Mon cœur s'ouvre à ta voix. My heart opens at your voice. And it starts off, she's singing this aria to him, and he joins in at the end and tells her that he loves her. So it becomes a duet. So it worked. What else can I tell you about this? I mean, basically, you all know the story of Samson and Delilah, so here it is. I thought I'd throw in some fun pieces just to finish off the night. One of them is a famous song from Napoli. It's a region in Italy, the Neapolitan songs. It's a great collection of songs that are so interesting and tell beautiful stories, and they're in the dialect of Naples, which I will try my best to come close to tonight. But this is a particularly beautiful song that touched my heart. I had the opportunity to sing in Italy the first time a couple years ago, and it's an amazing place. This one is called Ite Vuria Vaza, which is they're in a garden, and he's saying, you know, how much I want to kiss you, but I don't have the heart to wake you up. But I'll just stay here and watch the wind blow the curls out of your hair, and I wish I could spend one more hour close to you. So here it is. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming, for sharing some of my favorite pieces with me. I'm going to just sing one more piece to send you off on a strong note. It's from Carousel. It's called You'll Never Walk Alone. And it's kind of a beautiful anthem for many people. I think you'll find the words quite inspiring, but here it is. Thank you again for coming.
So let's talk about this space that we're calling the land between. It's this desert space in life where we feel like we're trudging across a wilderness. And one of the characteristics that's typical of the land between is this monotonous sameness. You know what I'm talking about here? When you awaken to very similar challenges day after day after day, you find yourself having the same challenging conversation with the same challenging teenager. You find yourself once again climbing in a car to yet again drive to a medical center to undergo yet another round of tests. And in that space, our hearts can really be in danger if we give them over to a spirit of complaint. You see, you would think that nothing much would grow in the desert, but the land between, it's fertile ground for complaint. Now, in the early pages of our Bible, we're following a group of people, the Israelites. They leave slavery in Egypt. They're headed to the land of promise, but they are in the desert, in the wilderness, that land between Egypt and Canaan. And if my math is right, they've been there for about 2 years in the episode I want to read from today. And for 2 years, they have been eating this food substance called manna, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they are sick of this stuff. So let me read a couple verses to you. And these verses, I think you only read them correctly if you read them with a whiny voice. So here we go. If only we had meat to eat. Oh, we remember the fish we had in Egypt at no cost. Also the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks. Oh, the onions and the garlic. But now we've lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna. They are sick of this food. And this riotous voice rises from their campground. We're sick of this stuff. And I just know that so many of us can find ourselves in that space. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this. Jeff, we're sick of living in our in-laws' basement. I'm sick of getting to the end of the month and having to decide which bills to pay and which bills not to pay. I'm sick of medical test after medical test and still not having a clear diagnosis. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of going to bed at night and not knowing where my 17-year-old is. I'm sick of driving to a retirement home and having my mother ask yet again who I am. I'm sick of this. You know, personally, when I'm going through a challenging season, I don't have to invite complaint to show up. It's like it shows up automatically. I pull into my driveway after a very disappointing day to discover that complaint has moved into the guest room, unloaded its luggage, is running a load of laundry, and is looking through my refrigerator for something to eat. And something about complaint, it resists eviction. I think one way to try to evict complaint from our life is to invite another house guest. And that guest, I just want to call it trust. That as complaint tries to move in, it discovers that trust is already occupying the guest room and is also sitting at the empty seat at my dining room table. You see, trust evicts complaint. I think one of the most powerful prayers that we can ever pray when we're traveling through the land between is just the simple prayer that goes something like this. God, I don't like this space. I don't want this space. I don't even understand this space. But I will trust you in this space. Let me challenge you today to invite trust to evict a spirit of complaint.